Thank you for joining us today for part 3 of the Natural Fertility mini-series. Natural Hope for Fertility is what we're talking about today. And I'm really hoping that you can get some information out of here that will give you some hope as you travel down your path to conceive. My name is Amber Littler. I'm a physician assistant here at the Hotze Health and Wellness Center. And joining me today is Lindy Melrose. Lindy is a guest of mine. I've been seeing Lindy for nearly 3 years now, and she and I have had quite a journey together and have become friends as well out of all of this. And I thought that you might be inspired by her story, so I just wanted her to tell us a little bit about what happened. So Lindy, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I came to Hotze Health and Wellness when I was 32 years old. I'm about to be 35, so I've been here, like she said, about 3 years. My husband and I been married 8 years, trying to have a baby all but one of those years. And we live in the Katy-Simonton area.
Okay, all right. And where are you from originally?
Southwest Louisiana.
Nice. Okay, good. So not too far from
No.
that. Good. So why did you initially come here in the first place? What were you thinking we might be able to help you with?
A friend of mine invited me to an informational about Hotze Health and Wellness, and she suggested that he might be able to help me with my infertility. At the time, I was struggling with foggy brain, just like functioning in daily life. And so, although that sounded good, first I just needed to get my life back. Really.
Sure. Okay. And you mentioned this fertility struggle that you've been having, and you and Hilt have been together for 8 years or so. Had you been on birth control prior to that?
When we got married, I was on birth control for 1 year, and then got off of birth control and actually had a miscarriage shortly after that, and then absolutely nothing
Right.
from then on.
How long did you try to get pregnant before you decided to explore other options, not even just here maybe, but other things as well?
Well, what we decided to do was pursue adoption. If we
Okay.
were going to invest our finances, we were going to go that route. And so pretty quickly we jumped on that idea, and we did it in a different state, and went through the state, and that fell through, and then moved to Texas and tried again, and actually was matched, and then that fell through one other time while we were here in Texas.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I remember that. I remember that happening. How do you feel like these fertility struggles affected maybe your relationship with Colt or other family? Or?
It was a really, really hard time personally, but the two of us had to hold on to each other and had to grow closer. I guess we could have not, but we really were the only thing each other had.
And I know you guys have a very strong faith
Right.
as well. Do you feel like you were able to lean on that some too during that time?
Definitely.
Sure. Okay. So you said a friend introduced you to us to the idea of coming here. Did she come here as well, or did she just hear about us somehow?
She is a patient of y'all's as well,
good.
and has seen success, not necessarily in the fertility area, but I believe the same brain fog and situation as I originally came to y'all for.
Right. Okay. And you know, Lindy, a lot of times people they think about us for a long time. They research, they check into other things, but usually there's something that finally makes somebody go, you know what, enough's enough. I'm gonna take the plunge now. Did you have a defining moment like that?
So when we lived in a different state, I wasn't feeling good, and I didn't know what was wrong with me, and I went to a doctor, and at one point I even said, do you think something's wrong with my thyroid? And they checked that and said, no, it's within range, that's fine.
Of course.
So I marked that off my list, and that doctor said, just try to eat more protein. I don't know what's wrong with you. So we ate protein, and my husband was happy about eating all that protein, but oh my goodness, every time I told him I didn't feel good, he's like, eat more protein, I guess, eat more protein.
Right.
And so when we moved to Texas, and my friend recommended y'all, I didn't come immediately, and I was waiting tables at the time, and my health just gradually got worse and worse and worse. I can remember going to work, coming home, laying on the couch until my next shift. If we were going to eat, it's because Colt brought something home for supper. If we were going to have groceries, it's because he went to the store. Like, I literally did nothing but work, get dressed, you know, come back and lay back on the
Functioning,
couch. I was
really.
not living life at all. I can remember waiting tables and trying to remember the order, Like that was the hardest thing because I was so foggy in my head. And so we finally decided to come to Hotze, and it was amazing. This foggy brain thing that no one knew. It sounds kind of crazy to be honest. People around here, a lot of people knew about it, and
Right.
there was like hope that we could do something about that. And
Right.
so that was just that someone else had an idea of what we
Sure.
could do was so encouraging.
And I think that's important that, you alluded to this, but a lot of people may not realize that the majority of the staff members of Hotze Health and Wellness Center are guests here as well, including myself. And so you're going to be hard pressed, I think, to go anywhere else and find people who truly do understand some of the symptoms, that you've been through, maybe not necessarily the fertility, but the energy or the brain fog or, some of those sorts of things. So we hear that quite a bit from guests, that sometimes it's just nice to know there's other people in the world that have been there and have recovered.
And are thriving.
Yeah, that's right.
That's encouraging.
That's right. So tell me about once you got started on the program and how things went for you then. What happened?
I think that's very important for my story because I did not go full force all the way.
Okay.
Changing my lifestyle was a big ordeal, and taking all these vitamins and minerals and compounded, it was a big change. And so I did pretty well, but I wasn't totally devoted to the regimen that I was given. And at one point you said, I think you need to consider going gluten-free. I've been seeing some things that show that might benefit you. And I didn't have any idea what that meant. I didn't know what gluten was, I didn't know what was in it. And so I did some research, but if I knew I had an easy day the next day, then I might cheat the day before
Right.
because I was so hungry for bread
Right.
or whatever it was.
Sure.
And at one point, my husband, so I feel like I could have been on a faster pace to getting better had I been more disciplined in
Did
myself.
that delay things a
I
little
believe
bit?
it did. And at one point, my husband said, if we're going to invest in this program, then I want you to give 100% of yourself. And so, and another thing I want to say is that it wasn't instantaneous. It was
Right.
over time. And I couldn't necessarily see that because I was not feeling good and I was frustrated. And so that's why I cheated here or there, because I really couldn't see much of a change anyway. So maybe a little bit, but but it was my husband who said, no, when you do this, you do not act the same. And when you do what you're supposed to, you
Right.
feel better. And so once I got serious about doing the program, things started changing and improving.
Good.
I was feeling better.
So you felt better, energy improved,
Definitely.
brain fog cleared up,
Yes.
and then in the early 2014,
Yeah.
things improved dramatically.
That's right. We had just gone through a failed adoption, which was really tough, and so we started praying that I could carry a child, but with my history,
Right.
that's next to impossible. We hadn't conceived again since years prior when we first got married, and surprisingly, we were pregnant.
Nice. So, Lindy, speaking of answers to prayers, we have with us today Miss Catherine Hope, born October 10th, 2014. We all adoringly call her Katie, and Katie's such a doll. So we wanted you guys to be able to meet her.
This is Katie.
Hi, Katie. How
You say
are
hi?
you? Say hi.
You say hi.
She's beautiful.
Thank you.
So, Lindy, if you just had one thing to tell women or even men who are struggling to conceive, what would you tell them?
I think the one thing I would say is don't expect for immediate overnight changes. Stick with the program, do as you're advised, and do completely as you are advised, and you will see changes, but be consistent. And like us, it should work for you.
Right. And as everybody can probably tell, you have another answer to prayer
Yes,
on the way. When are you
22
due?
weeks. We're due in June.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for joining us today. I hope that you got some hope and some inspiration out of Lindy's words. If you have any questions or you want any kind of further information, you'd like to speak to one of our consultants, please feel free to call us here at the Hotze Health and Wellness Center at 281-698-8698. Thanks again.